One testosterone-driven head. One testosterone-driven head. Ghost. One testosterone-driven head. Ghost. One testosterone-driven head. Ghost. One testosterone-driven head. Ghost.
I'm Jeremy Greer.
I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, the podcast where Gary and I talk about every single episode of the X-Men animated series. And we're back with 2 more episodes that I think are reasonably good. What about you, Gary? How are you doing, and what do you think about these episodes?
I'm doing all right. I'm getting over a cold, so you're going to hear me do a couple, like, the gentleman's cough, like a discreet, like I'm going to go, like, kind of point away from the microphone so it's not super loud.
That will actually probably be the only cough that's audible, because I'll just mute all the other ones. That's to keep your dignity.
Instead of muting it, cut it out and then insert it every other time I have a cough, so it's eerily similar. Every single time
it's the exact same cough.
just sure. Throat noise .mp4.
Yeah,
just
Gary's throat
in 3D.
No, it's got to be Gary's throat.flac. I want to get that primo.
Get a really good audio.
Yeah.
Put it in the folder just marked Gary's throat. That's for all file types related to my throats, like Gary's throat.mpeg.
I can guarantee that nobody would ever click on the folder called Gary's throat.
That's where you gotta hide shit, man.
I know that's all where all my weird pornography is, the kind of stuff that I'm actually embarrassed to show Autumn.
Specifically the pornography about Gary's throat, which is overlaps with your weird pornography.
I mean, that is that started there, but
yeah. So I'm getting over. I hope I'm getting over. I've had like a cold for a week and a half or so, but other than that, I'm good. And I also think these episodes are good. These 2 are good episodes. This is like good and sad, and it's about mutants, and especially because we watch these in batches, and we record them in batches. So we're recording 3 episodes today, and as we move on, things get more bonkers and weird from here. And this is already really weird. It's like it goes from successful weird to unsuccessful weird to like transcendent weird as we go. Like it gets real galaxy brain near the end. So
you know what, we can probably make that meme with like our last 5 episodes, and it would be fairly accurate.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this one where it's just like like Wolverine being turned inside out. Normal brain. Rogue being attacked by 4 mini rogues. Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's so much. It's too much, Gary. When his claws
Silver
turn into
Surfer
like
burst out of into snakes. Silver Surfer is summoned from a tree, or not Silver Surfer. Silver Samurai is summoned from a tree. Boba.
Excuse me, and has a motorcycle gang. Let's not forget.
Yeah, Silver Samurai's ninja motorcycle gang in the peaceful village where Wolverine has moved to do chores.
That they live on Stereotype Mountain. Is the name of the mountain.
Yeah, it is, it is. So, and then with the finale, our Christmas episode, which I think we mentioned was going to come out at the beginning of December, but it's actually going to come out a couple weeks after that because there is so much to talk about. We're splitting it off into its own special.
Yeah, I started counting up all of the audio clips that I was noting down to be able to pull and put in the episode, and I doubled the length of our normal episode because it's so fucking quotable. So
put the whole episode in audio form.
Exactly.
For the back half.
I'll just
do it as a play.
And I'll just duck out the volume every once in a while, and we'll talk about a scene, and then we'll just go right to the episode.
Yeah. Well, mostly it speaks for itself. So this is the beginning of the Galaxy Brain meme for this show. With our episode 30, but we're talking about Proteus part 1 and part 2. But before we get into that, how are you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing well. The last time we recorded a couple of these, I was in the midst of my own cold that you could probably hear if you listen back to those episodes. I could definitely hear a difference in my voice. I'm finally over that, and I'm just here, man. Like, life is good right now. So we're barreling towards Christmas, and I'm hoping to get all of my real work and pod work done so that I can take I hate the word staycation, but take a vacation and like work on my house a little bit
and stay at home.
And stay at home. Yeah.
If you don't want to say staycation, it's a staying vacation. It's a portmanteau. So just you can take a staying vacation.
I think I might just. And I don't know, like, if this is a function of just getting a little bit older, like getting up in years, getting a little gray in my beard, but I think I just can't fucking stand portmanteaus anymore. Like, just say a couple of words. Like, I'm 37 and I'm willing to chalk up a couple of syllables. Like, what time are you trying to save? Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Did you know that Veggie Tales is a portmanteau of Vegetable Tales? So
so when I say that I don't like something, you're just now going to give me examples of things that I don't like. Is that how this podcast?
Yeah, I'm just trying to push you into a rage for a spicier ep. I can appreciate a portmanteau when it is new to me. If it's one that people use like all the time, though, I also get annoyed. Or just abbreviations too. Like somebody referred to salt and pepper as SNP to me once, and it was like, that's bad.
Wait,
Stop
the
that.
band or just like the color? Like what are we?
No, just the color, the seasoning, the two table spices.
Oh, okay. No, that's not what that works. I didn't even get it from that. That's how bad that acronym is.
Yeah, SNP. When I was saying staying vacation, it sounded like I was saying sting vacation with an accent.
Yeah, I thought you were saying stang. Like a Mustang vacation.
Yeah, or you're just gonna like go down to the apiary, whip it out, and smear honey on your dick, and have yourself a stang vacation.
Speaking of weird pornography that we hide in folders.
What is
Gary's Apiary Staying Vacation, Volume 2.
Just a bunch of allergic reaction.dick.pics.
I like that you're doubling down on your content now, though, because now you can put this on the other side of the DVD and make it behind the scenes content.
Yeah, exactly. It's because it's when people talk about how they have their private horny accounts and their main accounts, they're referring probably to apiary porn. And also
certainly.
Like there's a whole if you go into apiary Twitter, it's exclusively bees crawling on dicks. So. Like you've heard of weird Twitter and you've heard of horny Twitter,
and now here's bee dick Twitter. When is B2 coming out?
Do you like jizz? Anywho, Proteus Part 1.
Yes.
The long hidden secret patient of Muir Island, a reality warping mutant teen known as Proteus, escapes from his 15-year-long captivity and wreaks havoc across Scotland, searching out his father. That's accurate.
Yeah, that's actually it's short, so they usually the shorter they are, the more accurate that they get.
And for a two-parter too.
Yeah, this is part 1 and part 2. This episode is really. I think this is like a really solid X-Men story. Like we've got a mutant that doesn't know how to control his powers. Like we're bringing in like some of the extended X-Men fam, like the Muir Island, Mora, Banshee, and we have mutants that are like. We have one specific mutant that's going through and like causing chaos, and then because it's the cartoon, automatically fixing it right after. So there's literally no consequences.
Yeah. This is based on a classic comic story.
Mm-hmm.
How weird is it that Moira McTaggart has a son that is a reality warping mutant, and then also Xavier has Legion, who is a reality warping mutant, but like the different kind?
So I always get confused, right? Because I know Legion is Xavier's son, but I always thought he was Xavier's son by Moira. Like, does Moira have just the reality warping mutant gene that she's carrying around with her? Maybe. I haven't seen this explored, and I don't, like, to be fair, like, this is a weird, like, I'm not actually that familiar with that, like, period of X-Men history, like the intersection with Muir Island stuff. I don't know this story. I don't know if I ever read these comics that this is based on. So I don't know. I thought it was Moria's son as well, but maybe Proteus in the comics is not Moria's son. Maybe that's something they did for the show to simplify it. Like a tiny modicum of research could have fixed this, I admit, but I didn't do it. Yeah. It's too late now. Yeah, you were too busy Googling how to spell the word apiary so you could make your DVD cover.
Just too busy, quote unquote, beekeeping to research for the show. So instead I'm not totally sure. It's not really important to this plot, but it is very strange that there's all these reality mutant sons or reality warping sons, in this show.
We open up with Moira and Banshee, who is just casually hanging out in his Banshee outfit, which
he never takes that shit off.
Does he sleep in it? Is it like his PJs?
Yeah. I love it. I love it because it doesn't look convenient or like comfortable or anything either. I think it just because it shows off his physique. Like Banshee's fairly cut.
Sure, yeah,
and
he's got to
kind
have
of,
those
like-
little armpit wings, right? Like that's
Yeah.
the style in Ireland, and what was this 1992 or whatever?
in case he has to fly.
Sure.
And they've got like this monster. They've got this weird little. He looks to me like a cartoon computer virus.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, like if you were gonna like make an illustration of a virus and like a 90s cartoon, people went to a computer to fight it. It would look like Proteus in this, and they're zapping him, and he's just screaming.
It's so bad. And Moira's like, "I'm so sorry." I think Moira basically says, "Like, I know it hurts, but you're getting better." Like, wow, thanks.
Yeah,
Mom.
I don't really know what exactly is happening. Like this one common thread with the 3 episodes we're recording today is that if you didn't know anything about X-Men, none of this would make any fucking sense to you at all. We're like far past the episodes, I think, that like set up their own premise and stuff. Because this, if you just come in on the scene, it just looks like Moira and Banshee are just torturing a monster.
Luckily this works, right? Like he finally breaks through, and like the weird computer virus monster turns into just a normal kid, like this wearing normal clothes. This kid's name is Kevin, so we don't have to say like weird computer monster anymore.
But everyone calls him Proteus, incling his mom and dad,
including
and, like,
his
Banshee.
mother.
Yeah,
What?
Like they give him his mutant code name, which is like he's not a superhero. Who started calling him Proteus? I don't.
We're going to learn that this kid has not had a normal life, and he barely knows anything about the outside world. So the idea that he chose this name for himself, like I just, what? Why did you call this dude Proteus?
It's extremely weird, and like this kid's life is very sad, where he's just been like getting zapped with torture rays, and the torture rays are just to give him a human form, apparently, because they don't make him sane or make him, control his powers or anything or anything. They didn't teach him anything about his powers. They're just trying to make him not look like a monster. So now that he doesn't look like a monster, he freaks out and leaves. He turns into the Thing, busts out of the wall.
I mean, it looks exactly like the Thing to me without like all of the brick motif. And then he possesses Banshee, and that's when we find out that this dude can literally like jump in people's minds and just take control of their bodies for a while and basically like rifle through their memories. This is really kind of skeevy and bad, especially like this kid who's a teenager that can do all of this stuff. And like it's really weird.
Yeah, this kid is really like a problem, and the fact that they've just been kind of keeping the secret monster that they've been torturing for 15 years, and then like it has the power to get out pretty much at any time. Like anytime you take your finger off the torture button from this kid, it can escape.
You think Banshee's little elves from his castle are just always, one of them is always sitting on the torture button?
Just have somebody leaning on that button, or else he's going to get out. Is one of the worst things one of like the worst acts that have been done in this show, I think, is torturing this kid for 15 years without teaching him like, hey, don't possess people.
I don't know why Moira, who is a mutant scientist, always thinks that she needs to make a scientific therapy gun to fix mutants. Like she did this with Morph too. Do you remember like that Morph episode that he got off of like an electronic table that she was like had instruments pointed at? And he was like, "I feel great." Like it's not stop trying to make a therapy ray. Just go to psychology school.
Everything is a zap based solution. So good. Moria tries to stop him for doing this. Kind of talks him out of like, you're hurting Banshee, she says. So there's lots of like implied pain in this episode. But eventually he just gets out, leaves, and he's kind of complaining about, you never cared for me. Like he's saying, making some good points, and he's the victim here. But then he starts making everything turn upside down, and like the room turns sideways. Moria falls because I think the ceiling, she's like dancing on the ceiling or something. Mm-hmm. And then he leaves, and everything comes back to normal. So luckily, she's able to like call the X-Men and be like, "I fucked up."
Yeah, Charles, come here, and like basically says like you have to come kill this kid. I've got a note in here that I think it's Wolverine that says like we're gonna have to go stomp a ghost, but Wolverine continues to be the star of the X-Men animated series.
And that also like Galaxy Brains during these episodes we're recording, like as he just gets better and better. These are all Wolverine, like fairly Wolverine centric episodes, and he gets better and better and better as we go.
And of course Xavier agrees to go, and we get this great flashback of Xavier proposing to Moira while he's in the military. And I love this because she's like, "Oh, of course, Charles, of course I'll marry you. Yes, yes, yes." And then like cue up like, what looks like 2 seconds later, and he gets the Dear John letter with the ring in the envelope.
It's kind of hard to tell the chronology here because it also shows him like Nurse Nightingale like falling in love, English patiencing with Amelia Voigt, who's like his physical therapy nurse. He's like in the war. This is back in his in the war times, which I think in the comics is the Korean War. This is where Juggernaut got turned into Juggernaut and stuff. So it's like I don't know whether the implication is like he fell for his physical therapist and then she broke up with him because he was cheating on her with Amelia Voigt, or if like that happened afterwards, he found love again. But like they both end up finding love again during this flashback. You know, they so it looks like the physical therapy happens afterwards. You know, Amelia Voigt, but it's a goofy little thing where we get all of their loves. Moira, who's like a divorce machine, gets another divorce in the space of this flashback.
That's two divorces per flashback. Come on, Moira, what are you doing?
It is like I'm not trying to shame anybody. Like as I've been divorced, like, I'm not shaming anyone for being divorced, but this is two divorces in the space of like generously 12 seconds of this cartoon. So,
and we just barely get a glimpse of the guy that she left Charles for. After they've had a baby, he's just basically disowning her and saying like, I don't want anything to do with you or the kid, and walks out. Like he's not named or anything like that just yet. And then we get what is going to be a trend in these episodes, and I think speaks to how many problems they had putting these episodes together that they had with the animation studio and everything. Because almost every single episode has a lot of repeated footage that we've seen before. All of this Moira Charles stuff that happens after now is just like him landing there and finding out that she's with Banshee, and you know all of that stuff that happens. And Moira and Banshee making out while talking about Charles for some reason, because nothing gets me hard like you talking about your ex, baby.
There's also a scene too where she first tells Xavier that she's going to get divorced, and he hugs her, and she can't see his face, and he does this smile that's like legendary, like just like yes, get divorced, like, join me in misery. Or he's trying to get her back, of course,
sure,
but that doesn't happen because she immediately goes over to Banshee, so
because she likes the screamer.
Yeah, he's the screamer. Xavier is eerily silent during sex, and he just beams his emotions into your head.
Oh God, I never thought about how quiet he is
while making direct eye contact.
just the flat, unblinking stare of Xavier's face.
Yep. Whereas Banshee just like literally shatters the wine glass next to the table, like so. You get an appreciative lover, but it is very weird, and it's just setting up, in case you didn't know. Mm-hmm. Like that's the thing that it sets up. Not that Moria runs a torture facility in Muir Island. It's that they used to be lovers, and it's setting up Amelia Voigt too late. We already saw her. I don't think she shows up again. So Amelia Voigt leaves Charles Xavier because he is. She doesn't believe in his dream. She doesn't want to make the X-Men.
And we get that same old at first I liked it. Do you remember me commenting about that 1960s original X-Men style footage of them in the original Danger Room, and I was like, man, this is so great to see this. We've seen it like 4 or 5 times now.
They do keep using it.
I'm done. It's not great.
And the same problem where Angel was not part of the team. Like when we first were introduced to Angel during the Apocalypse episodes in the first season, no one was like, oh, hey Warren.
It's good to see you, bud.
Everyone was acting like he's new, but here it's been established that he's an old X-Man. So kind of some continuity bullshit going on.
The X-Men finally show up, and Moira shows Xavier this video of Proteus going crazy and basically explains his powers, that he can warp. He can basically just do anything. Like that's what this kid's power is. And again, just Wolverine being the star of the show, he is just not fucking impressed with this kid. Yeah. He's just like, whatever, man. That's easy. Just whatever.
Beast is real impressed. Beast says something like a teenager who can summon anything he wishes. Scott, oh my word. Like he Beast is like that, and then Wolverine's like, yeah, shut the fuck up. This is nothing. I'm gonna stab him. Because
Wolverine's being such a shitbag, Xavier's like, okay, Wolverine, enough. Like, you guys go and try to find Proteus, and I'm gonna stay here with Moira and do research.
Yes. I'm gonna try to, see if I can get the old home fires burning. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, we move over to Moira's ex-husband, who is a family values conservative politician, who is campaigning in Scotland.
Yeah, the problem with Scotland today is that there's no family values. I'm going to put the family values back. I'm like, what are you going to do? Force people to get married to like?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah, what it means is like outlawing the gays. Probably that's probably what that actually means.
Or mutants,
or mutants.
Because I was expecting him to be more of a mutant bigot, and they don't really go for that angle. They just kind of go for like right wing shitbag. So after we just kind of established this, so like, smart people in the audience can know, hey, this is probably his father because it's the new character is introduced. Kevin goes into this bar in Muir Island. Did you get a screenshot of the denizens of this bar?
I haven't yet. I mean, I'm going to go back and get one because it's like it's a fucking Mojo-verse all of a sudden. Like all of this bar is filled with aliens.
Like it's filled with the He-Man and He-Man villains. We've dealt with, like, we know the Muir Island bar. Like, we have stock mutants whenever they just need to fill a scene. It's like, okay, here's Avalanche and here's Pyro. Like, they put some mutants in there. Here, it's all monsters. Like, it is extremely weird. There's, like, a guy with, like, a snake head. None of these people look like typical mutants. Like, these aren't cameos. They're just weird monsters that are in this bar. And the bar is, like, 90% monster. It's not like, mutants feel like a minority in this, in Scotland at all. It's very strange.
The only thing where I thought this was going is that he's been so sheltered in his life that when he sees like other people, like just normal people, like his weird brain like extrapolates them into being crazy monsters, and maybe that's why he's going crazy. But they literally don't do anything with that ever again, and he treats everybody else normally. So I don't like. I think
Muir Island just wild, man. Like all those people who went there to get the cure, like bought one-way tickets. Yeah, they're all doing dishes in that bar to work off Avalanche's destruction.
Destruction. Oh god, the cleanest fucking bar of Muir Island, guaranteed.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It is super ridiculous. And he goes and he's possessed like a human to go into this bar. And it might be like the super stereotypical like bagpipe night. But that might happen later too. I can't remember who he possesses here, but at some point he possesses like a guy who's in full like Scottish regalia.
Yeah, with a kilt and everything. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
I do want to mention that this episode has like a bunch of my old favorite X-Men the animated series classics, and just makes me long for the days that were like I just want a soundtrack to this series so bad. Mm-hmm. But it's got that cool beat. You used it for the intro way back. That
yeah, the cool kind of like
Xavier is about to get into somebody's mind shit. So
yeah, Xavier's theme.
Mm-hmm. Xavier's theme. Yeah.
It has that. It does the typical like the Muir Island establishing music. Mm-hmm. That like honking. Xavier tries to telepathically like talk to Kevin, which is great for the X-Men to remember that they have like the world's most powerful telepath on their team. But Kevin, for some reason, is powerful enough to resist this. Like that wasn't listed among his powers, but apparently so. And he doesn't really get it. He's never been talked to telepathically before. So he freaks out and he goes nuts in the bar. And again, more reality warping weirdness. Here.
Yeah, like the buildings start turning around and twisting, and this is actually really cool. Like I like this effect a lot because it's the animation style breaks out from its normal like usual kind of fight scenes, and this just goes fucking crazy. Like again, those buildings twisting around, roads flipping upside down, cars doing weird stuff, people going crazy.
Yeah. Yep. Real good. Kevin leaves, immediately after this happening. He's still confused and kind of on the run. This is where he possesses the Scottish knight, and gets on a boat. Like he's just kind of looking for things. He doesn't really have a purpose at this point. I would have established the father stuff sooner, I think. Mm-hmm. If it were me, like he's just wandering around. There's really no reason for him to be doing this at this point. But eventually, he gets a purpose pretty soon.
Yeah, he goes to the mainland, which is what the X-Men are worried about, because on Muir Island, he's kind of contained with as far as the amount of damage that he can do.
Once all he's going to do is kill some freaks.
Yeah, he can just go take care of Avalanche's bar. I'm going to assume that Avalanche owns it at this point.
He's been making payments for years. It's a rent to own.
Proteus like chills out in this trash can in an alleyway, which is really weird. And we get this weird scene of a kid getting chased into this alleyway with by bullies and getting kind of beaten up, and Proteus putting a stop to it and realizing what was going on and dressing up these dudes in like a pumpkin outfit.
Well, it's way scarier than that. I thought, because I thought he was like changing their skin, like turning them into human pumpkin hybrids. And then the first one reaches up and rips off his face and then reveals his face under it, showing that they're costumes. Where for a second I was like, oh God,
yeah, that's way worse.
This got real dark. Like there's that Twilight Zone episode that like It's a Good Life one where the kid has all the powers and he turns the person into the human Jack in the Box and stuff. I always think about that episode. Like if you had this kind of reality warping thing, you'd really make people into some real grotesque monsters, you know?
But this is where, after he runs his kid off, he possesses the kid because, you know, he's Proteus. He don't know no better. And the kid's dad runs up and is like, oh my God, so-and-so. I didn't write the dude's name down, but like, so-and-so, are you okay? I saw him chasing you. And Proteus like freaks out. Like, this is what I need in my life. This is a father. Like, it's so weird. We're good like 10 minutes into the show.
Yeah, the depth of his abuse, because he's like, why does he doesn't even understand. He's like, why does this man even care about this kid? Mm-hmm. You know, which like Moira McTaggart, like worst mother of the year. Like you just literally just been putting him in this zapping tube, and like he doesn't understand the concept of a father. That's like, it's like the second word that kids learn. I mean, you know, and
she didn't even teach him Papa. Like, you got to give this kid a Dr. Seuss book or something. Like, what are you doing?
He's 15. He has no concept of like family or any of this stuff. Like it's extremely dark, you know? So him just like learning that like, oh, hey, you can have a father and you can have like a parent who cares about you. Mm-hmm. This is mind blowing. I need to find my father. So he releases the kid, and the dad like tries to protect him. Like, hey, you know, you just possessed my son. Get the fuck out of here. And a bunch of townspeople show up.
Yeah, we get that like classic mutant scene where everyone just throws shit at mutants for no reason. Like, oh, hey, here's some debris. That thing's scary. I'm going to throw a brick at it. This is also where he like runs away, right? And completely wrecks the town. There's some real inconsistency with the outfits here when our X-Men start chasing this dude down. Like, at one point, Wolverine's in his plain clothes in the plane. Rogue's always in her outfit. Beast goes back and forth between like having just his normal outfit, which is his tidy blues or whatever, and also having like this trench coat with a hat, like he's gonna be incognito somehow as he's walking around.
He does the disguise like the Ninja Turtles did a disguise thing a lot in this episode and kind of in general. It's pretty silly. Like they're trying to pass, but they kind of don't. They kind of don't care. So Proteus is wrecking the town. Xavier comes again. Like says like, hey, calm down. Like, I'm going to try this telepathy again and see if I can destroy mainland Scotland by proxy through this kid. And the kid instead talks to him through this like TV thing, like appears on this like psychic TV.
And it does a weird like Doom Patrol stretch out like craziness. And again, just actually, you know what? Doom Patrol is my number one go-to when I'm thinking of like why I like this weird stretchy alternate reality.
Yeah, things getting warped.
Powers. Yeah, and like the TV like stretches up and out, and like Xavier's face gets all weird, and it's this doesn't work, of course. So the kid just runs away, and as soon as he gets out of town, the town puts itself back together again. Like the buildings aren't crushed or anything. Like it just goes back to normal. But all of the fucking people in the town are shook. Like they're like, "What the fuck just happened? That was horrible."
Yeah, which is going to be a theme. Like how much this shakes you to your core ends up becoming important to this.
And at this point, Wolverine is just getting completely pissed off at this kid. Like he's like, with this fucking testosterone-driven kid, like I can track him down on the ground.
Execute.
Yeah, he's just like, let's kill him.
Yeah, it's really intense. Like I'm gonna slice his head off with my claws. Xavier says like, hey, we're superheroes.
How many times has Xavier let you kill somebody since you've joined the X-Men? Like give me a list of people you've killed since you've put on the X. Like I want to know.
And not your secret snacks that you do. You know, just kind of to yourself. These are not the sanctioned kills, buddy. So he's flying around. Wolverine puts on his uniform, starts flying around looking for the kid. Moria calls the senator, the person looking for election, who's her ex, and says like, "Hey," he's furious. This guy's such a dick. Joe McTaggart, like he's just like, why would you call? You know, like everything. And she's so deferential. She's like, well, I wouldn't have called at all, but I think you're in danger. He's like, I got an election coming up, you know, and it is very, very intense. But she says like, hey, it's Kevin. He's coming for you, and he's just like, not now. Like I can't be seen with a mutant. And eventually she just says, well, he just wants to talk to you, and he's like, okay, well, maybe after the election, like. he's willing to do it, but it's like right now he cannot be seen and his thing is not about not being seen as a mutant. It's about not being seen as divorced.
Yeah, he doesn't care about this kid rampaging a city. He just wants to get elected.
Yeah. he said something specifically like, as a family values person, I can't be shown as being divorced. Like I can't find out I had a son out of wedlock, or I had a son that is no longer with the person. It's very strange.
What a shitbag.
Yeah, he's bad. Rogue hates him, which I like. That comes up next episode.
Gary, why didn't they call these 2 episodes "We Need to Talk About Kevin" Part 1 and Part 2?
or just like Kevin, or Kevin is a place on Earth. Like there's
Kevin is a place on Earth is also good. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, there's lots of these things you could. Proteus.
Man. So at this point, even like everybody, Wolverine. How did they run into him? Like they find him somehow.
They just catch him. They just find him, in the plane. Like he's just moping about, and they do this confrontation at this point. Proteus calls out like a lot of these very correct things. Like, hey, Moria, you didn't teach me anything. Like, like I'm a person, and you really fucked up. And this is also where everyone finds out that he's Moria's son. So all the X-Men know this. So maybe they won't summarily execute them.
And Xavier's kind of pissed off about this whole situation. He's like, "You had a baby and you didn't tell me? Like, we used to bone down. What the hell are you doing?" And it's like, it's a crazy mutant. Crazy mutants are my bag. What are you talking about?
Baby, is it this episode or the next episode where Proteus's father says, "We'll just pretend like Charles is his father"?
I didn't catch that at all. Is that
there's
really
a part where, like, he literally says like no joke. He's just like, just tell him his father's Charles. It's like so fucked up and weird.
Fuck you, Joe. Like it takes a pretty shitty character for me to pick you over Xavier. But wow, you're really.
How are you not? How are you the worst person on in the show with Xavier and Gambit? Like, and you're somehow the worst person on the show. I think it's during that conversation with Moria. I think it's not during this next episode. So pretty fucked up.
This fight, though, is one of the joys of these 2 episodes because, Proteus has these weird reality warping things, but he's a teenager. So, like, his idea of things to summon are just fucking hysterical to me. One is a giant ape. Like, he sees Beast and is like, I can make one of those. It just makes a giant ape.
Makes a gigantic monkey for a Beast to fight.
And then with Rogue, he goes the other direction. He sees Rogue and he's like, oh, yeah, I can make a tiny one of those. Oh, I can make 10 tiny one of those.
I would like an action figure of her. And, like, there's this thing where Rogue is flying around and then all these tiny rogues, like, surround her and attack her. It's great. It's really cool looking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But Wolverine, like, is like, okay, I'm gonna stab this kid, and he just decides to lit 15 years of torture out on Wolverine, like turns him inside out, rips him in half, like turns his claws into snakes, like he really fucks up Wolverine, and eventually like he leaves. They like scare him off again, but Wolverine is shaking his shit. Like Wolverine like is like weeping during this.
And we've never seen Wolverine lose it like this. Like he gets emotional about Morph every once in a while, but like not like broken on the ground, crying, not able to move. And
it's very intense.
It's pretty dark for a Saturday morning cartoon show.
This is we've talked before about the Comics Alliance like recaps of these eepisodes. Mm-hmm. I don't always read those because I don't want to steal any jokes, but sometimes I will to remind me of what happened in the episode, if there's anything I missed. And Chris Sims does those, and he read the comics. Do you know about what happens in the comics when this happens?
I have no idea. Yeah, no clue.
Wolverine is very upset and crying, like that happens. Mm-hmm. And the way he gets out of it is Cyclops throws a cup of coffee in his face and then pile drives him. And that gets him to like snap out of it.
He throws explain that. You're going to have to run that by me one more time. I didn't quite.
Cyclops.
Okay.
Scott Summers, the mutant known as Cyclops. Mm-hmm. There's a cup of coffee in Wolverine's face, and it's like, you're going to have to toughen up. We have to do the mission. Like, lives are in danger. And then Wolverine is still being a sad sack, so Cyclops pile drives him.
Okay.
Like, and there's scenes of it and stuff. So they didn't do that in the cartoon, but that's how Wolverine gets his groove back in the comic.
I take it back. I now understand why Moira is making a therapy ray, because it's got to be better than the pile driving into coffee. Like she had to hear that. Go wait, no! I've got a gadget. I can heal him.
It is so fucking goofy. So that's where the episode ends. We pick up again here on Proteus Part 2. tracking down his father, who is now a candidate for Secretary of State. I love that his father, I think that's the highest office that it is, too. Like, I don't think they told us before what the office is.
No,
not at all. It's not a big deal to be Secretary of State, but, like, it's very funny. Proteus continues threatening lives with his uncontrollable powers. It's up to Professor X alone to try to stop the boy who brought even Wolverine to his knees.
The boy who brought Wolverine to his knees. That sounds like a Chris Claremont title.
Yeah.
Except there's not enough adverbs in it. It should be Shirley, the boy who
the boy who brought Wolverine to his verily knees. So we open up on Wolverine puking and crying on a tree.
I mean, he's just like leaning against this tree. I could only assume that he's puking against it because his entire body got like twisted inside out.
Yeah. And I love it. And that would probably make me puke too. Again, like, oh yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I have a lot of sympathy with Wolverine right now. Like this is a bad time to have.
But being able to have like a gif of Wolverine puking over and over on a tree is like, again, quite the gift. Like it's a rare thing that is worth noting.
I love the animation here is so bad. Like they're going to do like a pan across, like that they're real fond of doing to show us a thing. And then Wolverine is still holding himself up against the tree, except now the tree is totally gone. So he's just puking and crying in midair.
Whenever you see an animation error, it's actually Proteus magic.
Oh yeah, sure. Proteus is on every episode for the next season and a half. You just don't know.
And all the every episodes before.
This all takes place in Proteus's mind.
Oh yeah, it's gonna zoom out at the end of the series and be Proteus holding a snow globe. Beast like puts two and two together and it says like, hey, he kept talking about his father. What if we found him? So thanks, Super Genius.
Finally somebody suggests this.
And not Moria fucking McTaggart suggesting it, who is the person who knew this from the start. Evil, Proteus is back into the orange electric monster, Proteus, and he's kind of stalking his father, hiding in these bushes while his father's doing a speech.
And this is the weirdest tangent of this episode where nothing happens to these two. Like there's a couple walking by, a man and a woman, and I mean, I guess they're not a couple because he's trying to hit on her, and he's like, "Oh, honey, you should hang out. I love to save the whales," and she just cold shuts him down, which is great. But why are we spending 45 seconds on this? What are we doing?
Yeah, I know. I don't know. It is a weird, just trying to show politics, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And Kevin does take over the guy and runs to another scene and then just completely lets him go. Kevin doesn't stick with human people very long. He just takes him over, runs around, and then lets him go immediately.
Catch and release.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No. So he's watching the speech, and the speech again is all about family values. It's just literally I love my kids. Kind of over and over. So as Kevin's heading to presumably disrupt the speech, he runs into the X-Men again. The X-Men are going to stop him. He kind of yells at his mom some more, and Wolverine is there, and Wolverine's perhaps a little bit hesitant to summarily execute this kid because he's scared. And Proteus creates this river of goo,
just this giant green goo river, and a melted church or something.
It's very weird, yeah. It's like the Notre Dame. It's it's like a cathedral. It's a huge landmark cathedral thing that he creates this thing, and Wolverine kind of surfs in it. Wolverine is here for this green stream.
And it's such a dumb looking thing with his he's just kind of wobbling around and not doing anything, more or less. He's just kind of just surfing down this thing for no reason. He's not attacking anybody. I think he might jump up and try to save a civilian at some point, but by that point Proteus leaves and all this stuff goes back to normal anyway.
Yeah. Yep. So he leaves and Moria ends up talking to Joe again and says this might be where Joe says just tell him Xavier's his father. But Joe was yeah, I don't want a mutant kid. I don't want a divorce thing. Leave me alone. I'm trying to win this election. It's soon. And even when it's soon, it's not in an hour, it's in a couple days or it's in a week or even if it's tomorrow, it still seems like there'd be time to just go say hi to this kid and stop Scotland from being destroyed. So all the McTaggarts are pretty fucked. They're not good people.
None of these are good people. Even Xavier, who is normally my good punching bag on this show. He's trying to convince Joe about it, but he's basically just yelling at Joe for being a bad dad. And I'm excuse me, Xavier, You pay children in cars to live in your house.
Where's Legion at? Where's Legion at, David?
Yeah, where your boy at?
Yeah, like, do you know where Legion is?
But Joe pretty much just says like he doesn't need any protection whatsoever, right? He doesn't need, because that's what the X-Men are nominally there for. Like, we think that Kevin's going to come after you, so let us hang out and protect you. And he's like, no, I hired these two thick neck motherfuckers, right? And they walk out behind him. I'm like, you're the family values guy. We're walking around with two dope dealers. What are you doing?
Like, I've got the thugs from that bar in the 60s.
Yep.
That Wolverine and his black girlfriend Storm fucked up. So they're going to be there, and so Proteus at this point breaks into Joe's house and kind of explores around. I think at this point he sees pictures of Joe with his new kids too, which is a real slap in the face.
He does,
and finds out that he's speaking in public. And Rogue is sent to like do surveillance on Joe and keep an eye on him, and is just overhearing him talk and hating him like the whole time, really, because good. Rogue has like child abuse issues as well. You know, like Rogue was abandoned by a real shitty dad. You know, and you'd think that the world's greatest telepath would know not to put people in these kind of fraught situations like this, but here we are. You know, have Beast do it. Beast had a good relationship with his parents.
I think we need to start rephrasing that. I think he's just the world's strongest telepath, not the world's greatest telepath.
Yeah, he's actually pretty shitty.
He's kind of a shitty guy.
He's not good at the function of his job.
At the event where he's going to be speaking, like, Beast has been hanging out there, and he's just in his, like, you know, I'm a normal guy clothes, except he's reading a magazine and loudly quoting poetry to nobody. I'm like, what? You might as well be hanging upside down and mixing up a cranberry sauce. What are you doing?
Can you imagine, like, so we talk a lot of shit about Xavier, like, having to wrangle this cadre of idiots would be so difficult.
I see why he leaves Gambit at home all the time. He's probably just fucking sick of it.
And like, out of people on his team, like, Gambit can kind of pass, you know, like, so it makes sense to have him there. But like, no, if we did that, he'd be stepping in on that Save the Whale guy's, like, you know, side piece and trying to get there. If the most normal person can have to fit in public in this thing is Beast, who just reads poetry all the time. Like, I can imagine this being immensely frustrating. Like, we're very hard on Xavier. However, by some, you know, measures, he is a saint for not just rewiring all of these motherfuckers' brains.
or alternate theory, he's tried and he's made them this dumb. Like, this is him trying to fix them. This is what happened when he tried to convince them to be superheroes, and they were like, "Fuck you! What do you mean get paid in cars? No."
Well, I will be poetry man. No.
That's not what I meant.
Like, open your mind.
We're not going to take down Magneto with your poetry. What are you talking about?
Well, as the bard says, no.
Oh, man. Cyclops, I'm going to go boss somebody around. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's good for me, actually. That's what we need.
I need a sniveling sycophant who happens not to be in this episode for no particular reason.
Yeah, it's. I've not found any rhyme or reason about why they have teams. I would imagine that there is an episode order, like a lost episode order that would maybe make sense with this stuff. But
yeah, I Jean and Cyclops are off doing Mr. Sinister shit or something.
Yeah, I don't, and I'm not going to be the guy that tries to put all that together because, frankly, I don't care that much.
Yeah, it doesn't actually matter. Jean Grey would be useful during this whole thing. So
I think just about like anybody would be useful in this whole thing.
Yeah,
anybody
except for Beast.
Except for Beast.
Yeah.
Wolverine has decided that he's going to go with the not the Brotherhood of Evil, but the Hellfire Club method of just getting entrance into this public speech via the sewer for some reason, while wearing his outfit that he was wearing at Magneto's funeral from a few episodes ago. So
yeah, it's wearing his Sunday best to go into
the sewer.
The sewer.
But he's obviously freaking out a little bit. Like he's very shaken from his experience with Proteus. Yeah,
he's scared. And so Joe gives his speech as all his family value shit, and Rogue is furious about the hypocrisy that's going on here. Proteus shows up in full monster mode, and this thing is just like, I'm your son, and they're going back and forth, kind of trying to convince him, and it's obviously not working. So the team tries to step in, but Wolverine, they do real shitty.
Yeah.
Proteus uses bats and waterfalls and ice slides and all this cool, Proteus shit to stop him. And it's somehow, I think, implied that the reason why they lost is because Wolverine was not on board. Because he gets too scared. He hesitates.
He leaves, and Proteus makes this giant hole in the ground and slides Xavier and someone else. I think it might have been Rogue, or it's probably Beast. Slides the two, they're going to fall into this hole in the earth, right? So at the last minute, Wolverine shows back up and grabs them to save them. But yeah, if he had been there, maybe they would have done better. But yeah, does not happen very often. Moira finally decides, after all of this, okay, well, I have a solution, and it's not really said until a little bit later, but it's heavily implied that she's okay, well, I'm going to turn my therapy ray into my obliteration ray, and I'm going to kill my son.
I kill him with too much therapy. It's like she's a Scientologist now, and she thinks that therapy will kill you.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So she's just they kept him under control for a long time. But if we zap him at full blast, it might kill him. But let's do that because he's going to destroy Scotland.
Yeah, and in between all of this, Beast is kind of just loudly and around Wolverine saying wow, Wolverine must be really scared because he's never experienced fear before. And I'm the dude is a guy, he's experienced fear. I know he heals all the time.
150 years old, and there's a part, and Wolverine's I ain't scared of nothing. And Beast says but perhaps it is the first time, they're having he says it kind of nobody, but then Wolverine steps in and then it becomes a conversation. Mm-hmm. Real weird. And one of the things I like about these episodes that we're covering in the session is this does get followed up on.
Yeah.
This Wolverine trauma, not in a good or cool way, but it does.
Not at all.
There are consequences for this.
It gets followed up on in a way that allows them to use about 5 minutes of previous animated footage that they don't have to pay for.
In an 18-minute episode after commercials. So Wolverine stops them and says hey, don't you realize that Moria just offered to kill her own son? That's pretty fucked up. Mm-hmm. Let's stop that from happening.
And meanwhile, Joe has spun this to the press. He's doing another speech. This is how much time jumps a little bit. It's jumping all over the place. It's doing
nighttime during this whole thing too.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
The timeline of politics in Scotland are very strange.
It's very odd over there. But he's told the press that all of this giant monster that attacked him was his opponent that's running for the Secretary of State.
Grabtor shall be Secretary of State.
It's not it's just you're just basically a diplomat, dog. Just what are you doing? Mm-hmm. It's not life or death.
Oh no! You know what though? I hate to make us go back in time, but during that scene with Beast, that's also the scene where Rogue gives Wolverine shit about not helping them, and Wolverine calls her cornpone.
Oh my god! I did not. Yeah. I would have noted down cornpone.
Yeah, I feel that definitely happens.
I wonder if there's 2 different dubs of this episode.
That'd be amazing. They censored it. But that's why Beast starts talking about it, because Rogue is you could have helped us, Beast, or Wolverine, and then Beast is well, perhaps he was scared. Wolverine says, "I'm never scared," and then Wolverine turns to Rogue and says, "Back off, cornpone," something like that. It's pretty great, and it also sounds real dirty, cornpone. Yeah, it sounds very dirty without actually being dirty. Mm-hmm. Anywho, so they're going to stop. So he does another speech. The X-Men are going to attack, but Xavier steps in and starts talking to Joe McTaggart.
Yeah, it's basically
this episode is a real anticlimax.
It's a repeat of what just happened, right? Proteus breaks into another speech. It's the same thing that just happened.
And the speech is Joe says something like, going back to the things that I have memorized, but I pretended to say off the top of my head. And Rogue is you slick son of a bitch. Rogue is really impressed with that that improvised line. And it's very, very strange. But the dumbest part about this episode is just that Xavier does just fix it.
Yep.
He tried twice and it just caused Proteus to go into a reality warping rage. And now all of a sudden it works.
And the only thing that's different this time is that Xavier says, hey, why don't you possess me? Why don't you look in my mind and see the work that I've done with mutants, that I've helped people? And that somehow, while that is happening, also convinces Joe the asshole to ask forgiveness for his son and want to be a dad. What? Excuse me?
Yeah.
How do you know anything that's going on right now?
I think the subtext here is that Xavier made him do it.
You think so?
But he never says it. I mean, I think that's a cooler. I don't know if it's actually what happens. I think it'd be cooler because, like, he's just like, hey, this guy is serious business. He fucked up my number one fighter. Like, I'm just going to alter this guy's mind without telling anybody. And I think that'd be cool canon for this.
I am into that read because he does act weird. He does pick up his 15-year-old son in his arms and carry him out the door like he was a new bride.
If you watch it, it is like one adult carrying another adult. It's really strange.
The episodes we're
super
this batch of episodes we're recording today has a lot of this. Like there's a thing in the Christmas episode where like there's a dude that just like bounces a dude around, and I'm like, excuse me, what is going on with this show?
Yeah, it's very good. So they just leave. They walk out, going where? I don't know.
Who knows? I guess they're not going to finish. I guess maybe they're going to go vote. Maybe he's going to go register his son to vote so he can get an extra vote.
Yeah. So they flash forward to Banshee and Kevin are playing some kind of video game, like where it's like it's a little bit like whatever that game is where you put in the anticipation or not anticipation, you put in the shapes in the board, like they're like manipulating glowing shapes. Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to be some kind of training, like it's a game and Proteus is losing, but everyone's really happy. And Moira says something like, "Isn't it better to be trained by Banshee than to be tortured?" I don't think she says tortured, but the implication is just like, "Hey, isn't this nice that I'm not torturing you?"
I can't help but think that like Moira had to see Xavier like just solve this issue within like a space of a day. Like, could you not have called this dude before now? I mean, what is the shame in this? You had a kid with your divorced husband. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. I don't know. And then it ends with this big love fest about Xavier where Wolverine is like, "Hey, I couldn't face him, but Xavier's got balls of steel. Like he could do it." And it's a very weird little like, I guess, but Xavier doesn't actually have to get his hands dirty or anything. He just has to, zap people with his brain. Doesn't seem that scary to me.
Yeah. If you're Wolverine and you're fighting like a reality warping monster, I feel like you would be smart enough to go like, "Oh, we need the telepath in here. Like my warrior skills, my berserk mode is not going to do anything to this dude because he could just turn my claws into snakes." Like that could be a thing that he does and did. So the fact that he's so impressed with Xavier here seems weird, but I mean, they have to end the episode at some point. I guess that's the, we're not, what we learned today is to rely on Professor Xavier for everything. It's just the more, period to this whole thing.
It's very strange. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And that's these two episodes, which are good. Like we were, making fun of it. They are really good. It's just it's not perfect. Like I think that it ends a little too quick and too easy. If Joe, like, there would have been a way to make this work within itself. I think like if, like, let's say Joe actually had a change of heart, and the reason he did was like he realized like, oh, like if I don't actually take care of that, my family, my political values are not more important than the fact that like all these people are going to die.
Or if at some point Kevin, in kind of a fit of rage, possessed his dad, and because they're related, he got like the communication was two-way all of a sudden, so he realized what his son had gone through under the hands of Moira, the torture mom. It was like, no, I'm going to get custody of this kid back. That would have been a good turn too. I'm with you. Actually, as much shit as we talk about, I'm like, this is kind of like good X-Men animated series to me. Like this is like, it's a good X-Men story. It's fun. Like a lot of weird powers, a lot of weird animation. Like it's good to make fun of too. Like it's goofy as hell in a way that isn't quite as dumb as some of the other episodes as we've.
It's a good mix.
Yeah, exactly.
And it actually genuinely feels like there are stakes. Like this is an unstoppable monster, and they have to get to it through its heart rather than just like destroying it because they can't destroy it. They sent their number one destroyer at it, and he could not do it. So pretty cool, actually. I think with some problems which we talked about.
Yeah,
they're not that serious. I don't think this ever comes up again on the cartoon, but it he shows up from time to time in the comics.
It just comes up like reality warps his way into. Is that how they do like movie episodes? Like, oh, now we're in a movie. It's because Proteus is here.
Yep.
Cool. Well, this has been an excellent episode.
Yeah, this has been real fun. Looking forward to the next couple episodes we're recording as well. We got good stuff. Again, we're climbing that galaxy brain tree. Mm-hmm. So we'll be back in a couple weeks with Family Ties and the Lotus and the Steel. I'll give you one guess what the Lotus and the Steel is about.
That's definitely what Gambit calls sex nowadays, right?
Like the Lotus and the Steel. Man, this is like Gambit voice.wave referring to a vagina as a lotus.
Shit.
It's not like I said a lotus, like the corn, the Mexican street food.
No, definitely wasn't saying that.
Elotus, not elotus.
Elotus.
Yeah. So if you like this show, the best way to support it is to go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and kick us a couple bucks a month. That would be very appreciated.
It would.
And this show, way back in the day, was a Patreon milestone goal.
It was. And the Heartbeat City is now officially funded, so that should be starting soon, I believe.
It is. I mean, yeah. So let me.
Not soon.
No, because of soon. It is officially funded soon. Like we always lose tons of money at the beginning of the month, which I knew was going to happen, but we were getting so close to getting there. So as of yesterday, it was funded, and then a bunch of people's credit cards expired.
Gotcha.
Which happens every month on the 1st. So
it's got to be so frustrating. Just fix your shit.
Yeah, it is. It's not. It's I'm not mad at anybody for that, but it is mildly frustrating.
Sure. Yeah. That's a cool way to do it. You could also leave iTunes reviews. Like iTunes has made it, or excuse me, Apple has made it almost impossible to do that from your phone now. I don't know if you use the actual iOS podcast app, but
I had no idea.
The most recent version, it doesn't even. You can barely even search for podcasts. Like I searched for something and it brought up 5 podcasts that were vaguely related. Like it wasn't even a list. It was horrible. So if you can, leaving iTunes reviews really helps us out. It bumps us up in the charts, and that can lead to a lot more exposure. And it's a pain in the ass. So thank you in advance of doing it. We appreciate it.
And if you can't, if it's too much of a pain in the ass, or if it stops you from doing it, just telling your friends is also very useful.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Gary, where are you at on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at Gary Budd, GaryBuh.
And I'm at JG Greer, and the podcast is DOFC Podcast, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks with another bonkers episode of X-Men the Animated Series.
Good night.
Because it's always night where Gary is.
That's true. I have my windows closed.